Alright, and welcome to the second half of our second unit as we look at the emergence of modern America and how life is changing as we get to the turn of the 20th century. Alright, so first we have science and urban life, alright? So by the turn of the 20th century, 4 out of 10 Americans lived in cities, and in response to urbanization, we will see technological advances begin to meet communication, transportation, and space demands. Skyscrapers are going to emerge after two critical inventions: elevators and steel skeletons that bear weight. Famous examples include Daniel Burnham's Flatiron Building in New York City, Louis Sullivan Wainwright Building in St. Louis, and the skyscraper will be America's greatest contribution to architecture. And it also solved the issue of how to best use limited and expensive space. In cities like New York, they take down old skyscrapers to build new ones. Although there are some of historical significance that are unique and will not be touched for certain monumental reasons, like the Burnham Flatiron Building. A lot of people, when they first built it, were afraid it was going to fall over with a gust of wind. I could see why people think that, don't you? Electric transit. Changes in transportation allowed cities to spread outward, and by the turn of the 20th century, intricate networks of electric streetcars, also known as trolley cars, ran from outlying neighborhoods to downtown offices and stores. And there were two types of kind of mass transit uses as well. We have L's and we have subways. So a few large cities will move their streetcars far above street level that is going to be created elevated or L trains. Other cities will build subways by moving their rail lines underground, which is a subway. We'll also see bridges and parks being built. Steel cable suspension bridges like the Brooklyn Bridge also brought cities sections closer. Urban planners will include landscaped areas and parks, and Frederick Law Olmsted was instrumental in drawing up plans for Central Park in New York City. This is an oasis. It's like an oasis among all the Manhattan skyscrapers. It's pretty cool. All right. City planning, Chicago. Daniel Burnham oversaw the transformation of Chicago's lakefront from swampy wasteland to elegant parks strung along Lake Michigan. Today, Chicago's lakefront is one of the most beautiful shorelines in North America. New technologies, new developments in communication brought the nation closer. Advances in printing, aviation, and photography helped speed the transfer of information. A revolution in printing. By 1890, the literacy rate in the U.S. was nearly 90%. American mills would begin to produce huge quantities of cheap paper from wood pulp. Electrical web perfecting presses printed on both sides of paper at the same time. Faster production and lower costs made newspapers and magazines more affordable. Most papers sold for 1 cent. Airplanes. In the early 20th century, brothers Orville and Wilbur Wright will experiment with engines and aircrafts, and they will commission a 4-cylinder internal combustion engine. They chose a propeller, and they built the first biplane. And on December 17, 1903, they flew their plane for 12 seconds, covering 120 feet. Within 2 years, the brothers were making 30-minute flights, and by 1920, the U.S. was using airmail flights regularly. Photography explosion. Before 1880, photography was a professional activity. Subjects could not move, and the film had to be developed immediately. George Eastman is going to invent a lighter weight equipment and more versatile film. In 1888, he introduces the Kodak camera. I wonder where that name came from. The $25 camera came up with a 100-picture roll of film. Film was something that we used to have to use to take pictures with for a long, long time, until digital became the norm. Alright, moving into section 2 of expanding public education. Between 1865 and 1895, states passed laws requiring 12 to 16 weeks of annual education for students ages 8 to 14, but the curriculum was poor and the teachers were usually not qualified. However, the number of kindergarteners expanded from 200 in 1880 to 3,000 in 1900. High school enrollment is going to soar. High school expand their curriculum to include science, civics, and social studies. By 1900, 500,000 teenagers were enrolled in high school. African Americans were mostly excluded from secondary education. In 1890, less than 1% attended high school. By 1910, that figure had reached only 3%. Education for immigrants. Unlike African Americans, immigrants were actually encouraged to go to school, and most immigrants will send their children to public schools. Thousands of adult immigrants will attend night schools to learn English. Expanding higher education. In 1900, less than 3% of America's youth will attend college, and between 1880 and 1920, college enrollments more than quadruple. Professional schools are also established for law and medicine. And we'll see African American universities form. After the Civil War, thousands of African Americans will pursue higher education despite being excluded from white institutions. Okay. Black Americans will founded Howard Fisk and Tuskegee universities, which was founded by Booker T. Washington, and W.E.B. Du Bois, who founded the Niagara Movement, which sought liberal arts educations for all Black Americans. And I think we'll stop here and cover sections 3 and 4 in our second video.